Hey, I created a dust cloud in Blender and I thought it was a pretty cool effect. So let's jump in, and there's a cube in there. So we can scale it down in the Z and go into edit mode, subdivide that up with the settings here, add some smoothness, some fractal, okay? And bounce out of that, go to the modifiers, and we're gonna add a deform modifier called displace, okay? For this we need a texture. That could be the Stucky texture. So let's choose that one. 0.35 settings is good. Our modifier has a really high strength, so we can pop this down to like 0.2. Okay, now that's looking better, but it's not really the right size, so let's scale it out. Let's go into viewport shader, because now we can add a material. Blender kit here, the blend kit was helping me out with this. By seeing what's in here in the materials, you can choose like soil or like ground or something, dirt. I found this one that I like, and I'm gonna add it right now. So you can see now, because we have the viewport shader on, tab into edit mode, okay? We're gonna unwrap this puppy by using smart UV projection. I love that because it's like so much easier now. Now, okay, you can go ahead and take a look. Does that look good for you? Seems not too bad. Now we need particles. We gotta make a dust cloud come out of this. So go and maybe name this ground before things get a little out of control. And I'm going to move the camera into just be in just the scene selection. I'm going to do so for the light as well. We're going to use those later. So with this collection, we go Shift A and add a mesh. This is going to be icosphere mesh. Okay, that's where your dust is going to come from. So let's call this emitter. Okay, and that can also be out of here. You'll see why later. Now, why don't we just go ahead and emit? So particle emitter. We're going to change the name of this to dust cloud. And we're going to change the number to 100 for now. And we're going to bump it out. It lasts a long time in the time frame. Starts a little way in. The lifetime you're going to want to set keys to so that your dust cloud has more thickness and volume to it and dissipates where you want it to in the animation. For now that's fine, but this is how you would set a key, that button right there. Okay, now if you go source and you go volume, you want the particles to come from the center of the icosphere, so that's perfect. Random. Okay, take away even distribution, go to physics and go fluid. 0.5 for the mass. We'll leave all that except for the drag, and we want to add some dampness and drag. Okay, so now we go into render, and this is an object that we're going to render, but we don't have it yet. So with in the collection here, we're going to go Shift A and create another icosphere. It can be moved out of the way like every other particle. Name it dirt particle. And we need a material for this. I kind of liked the fog one that I saw. Procedural fog looked good. You're able to edit that, thankfully, in shader editor, and we can change the emission strength. So how bright do you want this to be? So you can kind of see it doing its thing over there. You want to add some color to that emission. It's looking more brown, like dust would look. Okay, and you can of course add like little bits of actual dirt and stuff by adding another particle emitter. For now we're just doing this. So add a material, and we're going to call this transparent. I know that's not typed right. Let's take the alpha out. This emitter we don't want to see, but we want what comes out of it to be seen. So that's why we're just adding a transparent shader to that. If you know a better method, let me know. But I don't make it wire or disappeared in the render for that reason, that I need to see it. Now when the particles come out. So now that's good. Let's go back into the settings here. We got it all good. We're going to add that particle, that dirt particle, and we want to make it seen. So let's go like 0.8 and maybe add a little bit of randomness and go back here to the start and see how things emit. Now they're very small, and that's because it depends on the shape of your particle object as well. You could scale that up and then those shapes would be bigger, or you could adjust the size from the actual emitter like we did over here, and you could go like point or 1.5 or something like that. You could also move this up so that it bounces off the ground where you want it. And how's it going to bounce off the ground without a modifier for the ground? So we go add modifier physics, because we want the particles to collide with this. So go into the settings for it. Could add some field absorption and some stickiness, 0.5 maybe. And let's try that again. Now it's kind of like forming a little bit better. But if it was forming too fast for you, then you can go into the settings here, and this is important. You could make it faster by adding more, or slower by extending out the timeline or reducing the amount of emission numbers. So let's try this though. A little bit more dust kicking up around. Maybe too much. There we go. Starting from the 10th frame, it starts to make more of a better looking image there. But we need render settings. We need things to look a little bit more cartoonish. We need light rays. Let's go ahead and add a volume shape. So we're going to go ahead and say cube. Scale this out. This will be our fog. Let's name it that then. And we don't want it to be in that collection, but we want it to have a material that we create. We're going to search for the volume scatter. You might have done this before. We just want this to be see-through basically, and to have some density to it, so the thing can be slightly dense or a little bit more dense, and it can be a bit of a color, like maybe bluish color. Okay, and then so now that we got that, it'd be nice to have something like that for the ground, right? So why don't we shift D to duplicate this, scale it down, and this is like fog that's like kind of settling on the ground still from the morning. So like we could call it dew, and that's gonna be inside. No, let's leave it outside. Okay, now we can have a different material for this though, to make it look more like the dirt around it. So we could just add that same fog transparent, and you see how it affects quite a bit moving it up or down. You want the high points of the ground to be poking through this, and I think it could look a little bit better. There we go. Now we want to add a light. We have a light. We could use it. Change that to spotlight. Go 12,000 maybe. Let's try that. Add a little blue to it. Give it a little night effect. It's huge. So let's zone that down so that you can see what's going on. I'll put that view on for you. And we want this light to be coming in, poking in from the side. And you might want more than one. So you could add another light. That's up to you. We want this camera to kind of express the scene a little bit. Are we up close? Is this ground big? Like, where do you want the camera? The camera says a lot. Okay, and there we go. So now the light's a little bit wrong angle, so we can make it go up a bit. And the light would look better if it had something blocking it. It would also look better if it was blended a little bit more. There we go. And it's a little big, so let's go like that. Now let's add something to put in its way. So plane, I'm gonna rotate that up, and I found it's helpful to just put it right in its path, size it to the size of the light beam that's hitting, and then in edit mode you can subdivide that and add a whole bunch of cuts, because now you can go into face mode, still in edit mode, to be able to pick faces. And you can just shift select a couple of faces. But yeah, you see how the light rays move like that. It's really cool, hey? And so back in the camera mode, go Control 0, and you can see better what's going on. Now let's play it back and see the dust clouds popping up. There we go. If you were not happy with how they started to show up, you can go to emitter, and in those particle settings, there's something called seed. You could adjust that just slightly, and that will make a big difference to how it looks. There we go. Now the volume is looking good. The light's looking good. We got rays. The dust cloud's looking okay. Could add more detail by you adding another particle emitter maybe. But I would like to have a more of a cartoon look. So I would like to shift A, kind of select grease pencil. Now you don't need the whole monkey, just the stroke is good. Move the stroke out of the way because you don't want it to be seen. But with the stroke selected, we go add modifier, and we're going to generate line art. That's what this collection is for. Everything in this collection is going to get this color, and the color is going to be black. Let's say 10 is good. So now we want this little dirt particle and all that to be affected by it, but we're not seeing that right now. So if you go into that fog, that's the big volume box that we made. And if you go into the settings for it, the line art is affected by this. So you got to go exclude. So now you see all those kind of lines in there. If you go back to your camera mode, control 0, you can see the lines forming on the dust cloud. So as you play back, now there's lines on that. But you don't want that many lines, let's say. Modifier for it, edge types and intersections. So now you just have lines showing up kind of on the outer edge, which looks a lot better. Maybe your thickness of your line you could drop down a little bit. And just so you can see better, let's go into the world settings. For the shader editor, instead of object, world settings, and change this to be just black. Now we play that back, and looks not too shabby. There's definitely things to fix, and if you rendered it out, you can change all kinds of settings and play around with this quite a bit. I hope you liked watching, and I hope you learned a lot. Also, if you want to comment, I appreciate feedback because I can learn from it too. And you know what, you might be able to just hit that like button, and you might be able to just subscribe and see more videos like this. It's been a lot of fun showing you. Come back again. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.